Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back on another episode of Ghostly Discussions. As always, I'm Noah.
I'm Gage.
And we're here. We're going to be talking about our second investigation that we ever did as the Bellaire House. This one is a really important one, given the fact that it was supposed to be a 4-part series on YouTube, but we ended up having to cut that a little bit short. We only have 2 parts out on YouTube, and we'll kind of explain why that ended up being the reason and what came up to that conclusion and why we needed to do that and kind of the backstory behind it. But a lot of really important stuff to get to with that investigation. Honestly, I would say the most that we have to talk about is more what happened off screen rather than what you see on screen. And it's really interesting stuff. I think it was probably, to this date, one of our most personal ones that we've ever done.
Personal and most evidence almost.
Honestly, yeah, the Bellaire House was just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, we got a lot of shit there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A lot of stuff happened off camera too, with the footsteps and everything.
Yeah, footsteps. Estes method was crazy, which that was actually our first time ever actually doing the Estes method. I don't even think we did it 100% properly though, because I don't think we had a blindfold.
We didn't have a blindfold. We just closed our eyes.
Yeah, just close your eyes. But we had a ton of really crazy stuff go on with that. But like I said, we've got a lot of stuff to kind of cover in today's episode. So we're going to kind of break it up a little bit. We're going to start out just with doing what we did last week, where we kind of covered the stuff that you see on camera with the Moundsville Penitentiary. We'll kind of go through, show you what happened with the Bellaire House. But before we continue, again, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you guys get updates on whenever we upload a new video. And if you haven't checked out last videos on our Ghostly Discussions episode where we kind of talked about Moundsville Penitentiary, I highly suggest you guys check that out because it was a good one. We're going to go ahead and get started.
Intro, not important.
On this episode of Ghostly Officers, the Belmont Paranormal Society investigated the famous Bellaire House.
You get your long hair back then.
The following footage is what happened during the 72 hours the crew was at the house. Discretion is advised, as some evidence captured may be found disturbing. While the crew was in the
Here we capture, it was kind of a growl.
The camera that was set up in the basement captured the following unexplained phenomenon.
Could have just been breathing too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell if that was more of a growl. It sounds either like you're saying, either it's like a breath or it almost sounds like, the noise of like a chair makes when it's vibrating against being dragged. It almost could have been the sound of a chair being moved upstairs, you're hearing it from above, from the ceiling. I also thought of that when I was rewatching.
If it was, it could have been us.
True. I mean, true. That's definitely a possibility. Well, hold on though, because whenever,
we were upstairs.
Yeah, we was upstairs. Yeah.
And then we head down to the basement. Me and Ethan.
Basement of the Bellaire House?
This was our official cameraman, Ethan's first investigation, which, for those that don't know, Ethan is actually my younger brother. And this was his first investigation with us as our camera guy, which he does a good job on that. And we got a couple funny things that come from Ethan actually in this investigation.
So we captured this spirit box response.
That one still gives me chills when I watch that. Yeah. So, kind of the backstory on this real quick. Some of the history that happened at the Bellaire House was many years ago. There was a report that essentially a little girl had committed suicide up in the attic by jumping out of the window, and they had 2 other cases of something similar. I think one was a little boy, right?
I don't know.
I think one was a little boy, and then I know the third one, which was kind of like the really big one. I guess they had an adult investigator or something because they were investigating the home based off of some of the reports of this continuing suicide stuff going on. And that's where the investigator goes in the house, and the team said that he just kind of like almost kind of went numb to where he wasn't really responding to anything they were saying, and he kind of was acting not himself. And he just kind of walks up to that attic like the children before. He walks up to the attic, he opens up that window, and jumps out that window, which was super crazy. So while Gage and Ethan are in the basement and they're conducting this spirit box session, and they're getting this the voice of this little girl basically saying that like they want somebody to go and play with them, and at this like
come with us.
Come with us to play at that window.
That's what got me. It wasn't just come with me; it was come with us.
Right. But at this exact moment, that is where I and our special guest investigator, Kevin, we were both up in that attic, and we were actually standing right next to that window when this happened. We were just kind of up there setting some equipment up, and it was just, it was crazy.
We captured some more responses here.
Hey, are you here with us?
You're gonna hear that one.
Not much longer.
Listen. You talking to Spirit Box?
What are you doing?
While Noah and Kevin were away to Walmart, Ethan and Gage heard the little kid's piano go off multiple times. Here's an example.
I was thinking when I was messing it up then.
This is funny.
Holy fuck! Dude, it did it again.
We did later debunk this. If you touched it at all, like it would go off on its own. So
It was about 10 minutes later after you played with it, it would go off. But in the moment, it was we thought it was there for a while. It was pretty cool, but just him getting scared by the reaction was just hilarious to me.
yeah. It's also the first time we ever used cutaways.
Is that date right?
Huh?
Is it date right on the camera?
While reviewing the
I don't think
evidence
the
that
date
was
is right on that.
previously
Yeah,
captured in the
2020.
attic,
We went to
we
Bellaire
heard the
House
REM
this
pod
year.
that was set up in the
That's what I'm
living room
saying.
going off. Noah quickly grabbed his camera to capture the
Nothing.
phenomenon.
Nothing happens here.
After many more
I do want to say though, because like, you know how like every time we like put the REM pod on that like table in that corner, it would go off for a while and then it like wouldn't. I actually wonder if that was like a spot where a portal was.
Oh, I don't know.
I kind of wonder if that was possibly a sign for there being a portal there, because it was weird to me how it didn't really seem to be like intelligent responses to something. It was just more of it would just go off for like a long period of time, and then it would kind of stop, or we kind of screw with it because we didn't understand why it would just continuously go off. So we'd either turn it off or move it to another place, and when we put it back, it would always go off again. So I mean, they said that there's like 17 different portals in that house. I just wonder if that's kind of a possibility for a sign of where a portal might be, using something like that.
No idea.
The amount of energy that a portal would give off, possibly being a sign that there was a portal right there.
It's possible. We do another spirit box session up in the main bedroom.
Ed, is this you?
and
Here at first time we had the two cameras now, so we kind of switched between one camera to the other to try to give it a better effect.
Something we're definitely still working on trying to get the two different cameras' perspectives and the different angles.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna put that.
Nothing really happens here.
Nah, nothing. Yeah,
The REM pod goes off a little bit.
I still am kind of curious about that whole thing because the REM pod wasn't going off like it normally does. It was the temperature gauge kept going off, and it was like only the temperature gauge in that room specifically. It didn't do it anywhere else in the house, but in the doll room is where we sat the REM pod a lot to kind of sit there, and the temperature gauge kept going off, and it would only do it in that room, which I thought was kind of interesting.
So here you see a guest investigator, John, and then me. We hear a noise with our ears.
Almost as like a whooshing, like something like was going past his head.
Yeah.
Kind of like a whooshing
At
sound.
this moment, an audible noise is captured and heard in real time by John and Gage.
Yeah, we both heard it. Our cameras picked it up.
It's really faint. You have to listen for it, but it's kind of like a.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, this is good.
I don't think anything happened here.
No.
Nothing happened. They're in the attic.
We were just sitting by that window to see if we could get, because this was after we kind of reviewed the footage of the voices telling us to go to the window. So I thought, let's go sit next to that window, see if we can get anything to kind of tell us that, like, hey, they want us to still play over there with them.
Yeah.
We didn't really get anything at that point, though.
Yeah. We do another spirit box session. I think we're back down in the basement.
Who's with us right now?
So I'm right here. I'm sorry about that.
Dude, that fucking doll.
So at the Bellaire House, they have kind of like an offering with a doll, candles, money, anything anyone will give to this.
Yeah, it's basically like the head of what's supposed to be like the devil or like goat or whatever you wanna interpret that as. That has basically been placed on a female doll. There's a lot of discrepancy over this because based off of a lot of people that we've talked to in the community that have been here and have seen stuff like this, it, like Gage said, it's basically an offering, which, and I'm not saying that the owner of the Bellaire House is doing this, but there's a little bit of discrepancy when it comes to offerings like these because people in the paranormal often associate these with possibly being put there for a reason as to kind of stir up the activity themselves, because the offerings often can give power to whatever negative energy might be in that space, which would be what this thing is supposed to represent.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of discrepancy. I'm not saying whether I believe it is or not being done on purpose, but it is kind of an interesting piece to just kind of have in that space.
Is it supposed to be Baphomet?
See, I don't know. That's like, I don't know.
Like Baphomet has a body of a woman, head of a goat.
When static cameras.
Well, there's a lot of a lot of folklore have the same idea. We ended up going up to. We set a static camera up in the attic. No one was up there. We just let it roll. I think we were in the basement, and we just let it roll for half an hour. And we did capture some audible footsteps.
Real quick, for those of you that might not know who the third voice in the room is, that is actually our other partner. of the group, Lucas. He just did not want to be in front of the camera today. So if you do hear his voice, that is who that is.
He's having a bad hair day.
He's having a bad hair day. The receding hairline is coming in.
Yeah, that's enough.
But it just almost sounds like heavy boots.
That's like heavy.
Little footsteps were very prominent here. The first night we had this place for 2 nights,
Mm-hmm.
and the first night we investigated to about 4 in the morning, and
Yeah.
we decided to split up, and we decided to go to sleep, and everybody that was there was 4 of us that stayed.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them stayed down in the living room, and I went up to the attic and slept by myself.
That's because you're crazy.
I am crazy, but
I was not. I was sleeping in the living room. Which what was funny about that was like, I don't know why, but like whenever we was there, and you could, as you went throughout different places of the house, you could definitely feel like the different energies that was there. Like up in the attic, because that's supposedly where the demonic entity lived. It was very heavy, felt very dark. Did not feel. You just didn't have good feelings when you was up there most of the time. But like down in like the living room, it wasn't nearly as prominent. You didn't feel as bad down there. So I was like standing in the living room. I'm like, man, where are we gonna sleep? And I'm like, I'm not really getting any bad vibes from this living room. So I'm gonna sleep here. And then come to find out that one of the main entities that is in the house lied. That's where she died, was in that living room.
yeah. When I was up in the attic, I brought the REM pod with me. It's about 4:30 in the morning. I'm about to go to sleep, and I just hear what we captured just a bunch. It sounds like heavy boots, like walking in the attic, like on the other side, like towards me. Then it disappears. So I end up going to sleep, wake up about 7 in the morning to the REM pod going off, and more footsteps.
There's the one point that we'll see in this video that was probably our best, like caught footsteps, was where we had the REM pod sitting on the stairs of the second floor, and you're filming the REM pod going off, and then, like you're just standing still, and then you hear those like really prominent footsteps, like almost. I think they were walking down from the attic, almost is what it sounded like.
I don't know. But that morning when I woke up at 7, I decided to go downstairs, edit. All 3 of the other guys were asleep. I was in the dining room. I was editing a little bit, and then I'm sitting there and I hear what sounds like somebody walking through the living room. So I'm like, oh, one of them guys are up. So I get up, I open the curtain, they're all 3 dead asleep. I was like, okay. So the footsteps were very prominent here.
It was, yeah.
And it was
like,
cool that we actually got to capture them.
It was crazy, like too, just like for such a like it's not a small house, but at the same time, it's not like an overabundantly large house, and for such a small space, relatively, like compared to some of the other places we go, there was so much like powerful energy in that house. It was crazy. It didn't stop. It was just there wasn't a quiet moment at all that night. Like both nights actually. The second night was even more crazy, and unfortunately the second night was more of the stuff that you don't see on camera.
Yeah, we found a lot of Estes methods, and so we didn't want to just completely bore you with
we
2
understand.
hours of Estes methods.
The one video that we have was our Estes method that we performed down in the living room, which I think is about an hour of just Estes method, and it's kind of a two-part problem. In our earlier days, we didn't have nearly as much equipment as we have now at our disposal to use for the like different types of paranormal investigating. And second of all, we had just gotten used to doing the Estes method and really performing it, and we were so infatuated with the way that it works, where you plug in those pair of noise canceling headphones into the spirit box and then blindfold yourself, which we didn't have a blindfold for this one, but we closed our eyes as much as we could to still create that effect. But the fact that we're in real time, he's under the headset or John is under the headset, and they can't hear or see what I'm doing, and yet they're answering the questions that we're asking, and some of them are like super poignant. Like at one point we was getting a lot of really good answers, but at that point I'm still kind of like, I need something a little bit more poignant to kind of cut into the meat of it. Like, are we really talking to something that is very intelligent, or is it just, can we debunk it at all? So I go ahead and ask, hey, what's my name? Which I'm thinking again, they can't see or hear me. So if I hear my name come through that thing, I know we're talking to something very intelligent. That's going to give that response, and we did. Which was I remember when it happened, we all looked around the room. Those of us that wasn't, we all looked around the room like, whoa, that just happened.
Yeah. But moving on. Let's see, what do we do here? More spirit
We were
boxes.
captured for 3 minutes.
A lot of spirit box.
Yeah, that's basically all we had.
Well, it's all we didn't really have that much equipment to use, so we were kind of using the same thing over and over again because that's all we really had to use.
Yeah, nothing's happening here, so we're speeding it
Show us
up.
if there's something here. I can't.
Why can't you? Is something preventing you from showing yourself?
So he asked, is there something preventing you from showing yourself? Because we had a theory that at the Bellaire House you had your basic, almost like your basic spirits, kind of like your females, maybe not a prominent male,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had Ed, which is an actual resident of the Bellaire House back in the late 1800s, and then he was kind of more prominent than the other spirits. But then he was actually being kind of manipulated by a spirit that was a lot more darker,
More negative.
more negative, darker.
It's
And he was the one kind of doing all the controlling. And we got a lot of evidence pointing towards that because the females would warn us. They're like, hide, run, he's coming. And then on the spirit box, something that was just darker, deeper male voice would come through.
Right.
And then it would tell us to get out.
It was basically the hierarchy. Throughout the investigation, like he said, we had the theory there was kind of a hierarchy to the place where the two normal I'm going to call them normal spirits because I believe that they were spirits of people that actually lived at the Bellaire House at one point, were Ed and Lyde, who were the two siblings that had lived there. And Lyde was almost she was almost protective of the house itself by trying to warn us of the negative entity that was there. And she was also kind of protective of Ed as well, as a sister would be. But the way that the story or legend of the house kind of supposedly goes was that Lyde, being Ed's older sister, she was kind of like a mother figure to Ed. And whenever she had passed away in that house, in the living room, like I said before, Ed was super distraught by this. So he kind of got really into things like the occult and talking to different psychic mediums and performing rituals at the house, which supposedly he had opened up 17 different portals throughout that house, which is where they think at some point through all these rituals or through these portals, that's where he had essentially summoned that darker, more negative, or possibly even demonic spirit that was in that house. And the way that it seemed to be throughout the investigation was that the demonic, I'll call it demonic, the demonic entity that was in that house was the one running the show and kind of was pulling the strings of all the things that was happening, especially with Ed, where it was almost kind of like that spirit would drain Ed of his energy, and then because Ed would kind of come in here and there.
Yeah, you got Ed every once in a while.
Yeah, Ed would come in, we'd get a lot of things like Ed is coming or Ed is here, and then Ed would say a couple things. He'd basically just tell us to leave and that we weren't welcome there. And then we'd get responses where Ed is leaving, Ed needs to sleep. It was kind of weird stuff like that. And throughout the investigation, that's where we started to think that this more powerful thing in the house was kind of using Ed as a kind of like a puppeteer in ways. And then Ed, would constantly try to drain the power from our equipment, like the REM pod, and
Yeah, we went through a lot of batteries.
We did.
In 2 days.
we did.
We had to make a couple.
But Live was definitely like the more protective. She was always trying to like more of a warning, kind of like get out, stuff, a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. We do a spirit box. A spirit box.
Well, here's the.
No, this is different. This is.
Oh yeah.
We were,
While some of the crew was leaving the attic,
we were leaving the attic, and we had the REM pod sitting downstairs in the hallway. And this is what we came out to the attic to it doing. And it does this for a while. I think it won't.
That's some like strong activity for the REM pod.
Yeah, we ended up having to reset it and like turn it off. That's basically all that is. Yeah, we reset it.
I swear I heard a scream.
Yeah, I heard an audible scream. It's kind of faint.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You can hear it.
I can hear it.
Scream.
I hear it with my own ears.
In the spirit box session in the basement, he each decided to go up to the attic alone. On his way up the stairs, he captured a REM pod.
Oh, this is what you're talking about with the REM pod and the footsteps.
listen
Yeah.
closely.
Funny thing is I was standing there and I didn't even hear him with my own
Well,
ears.
right, and it's crazy because like there wasn't a single other person around you. Everybody else that was there was down in that basement, so there was no way we're anywhere near you.
Yeah, even if like you were walking up the basement stairs, it probably wouldn't have come
No,
through.
no.
But more spirit box. We do a lot of spirit box, but like we said,
A lot of spirit.
we didn't have much other than
Other
that
than
REM
this-
pod.
Yeah,
And
the REM pod,
we
spirit
didn't have a
box.
P recorder, but we didn't use it much.
We didn't use the. Well, it's because we were so. I think we were so infatuated with the spirit box.
Yeah. We use it here up in the attic again.
See you do it again?
There's more spirit box stuff. I think that's all we do for the rest. This one actually shows the dark voice.
Can you roll the ball on me? Do you not want to play with us?
Are you still up here?
Yeah, so that's kind of, females are telling us to run, and then they tell us to get out. And then right after that, dark voice will come through.
The ball.
And
Are you not scared of us?
What the fuck was that?
Can you tell us where you are right now?
the responses we were getting that night were very intelligent. Like,
That was the thing. Like it was so intelligent.
Yeah.
Everything was intelligent.
there wasn't much residual stuff going on other than the footsteps,
Will we help you?
but a lot of the spirit box responses are all intelligent. But it's just all spirit box.
hmm
Yeah. And then you
That pretty much covers the first part of that again series. The second video is on YouTube, and it's titled like the Estes Method Session 1.
Yeah, it's the Bellaire House Part 2.
Well, yeah. But yeah, it was our first. I guess I mean to say it was our first session as like doing the Estes method in the house, and it's up on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. But Yeah, what led us, it was supposed to be a 4-part series, but basically the second night, which would have been a lot of what we put for the third and fourth, geez. The third and fourth part of the videos, it really would have just been mainly more of the Estes method, because that's all we really did for the second day. And we kind of realized that for viewing purposes, it definitely is not one of the more it's harder to watch it.
Yeah,
It's not
very
as
dry.
It's very dry. You're right. So that's kind of where when we realize that whenever we do these investigations, we probably need to start limiting how long we do an Estes method, like maybe a maximum of 30 to 45 minutes, and then get her moving and do something else, so that whenever we get done filming, it's not like the entire thing we filmed was the Estes method.
We got a lot more equipment now, so we can use that.
Right, that's definitely that. We got a lot more now. We're continuing to get more as we grow. But to kind of give a little bit of a backstory on what happens kind of off screen that you don't see, we got a few different stories that happened involving these Estes methods. We mentioned before that we were talking to something very intelligent that knew our names. It didn't just say my name. It actually said both you and John's. Yeah. And John's name. We do the one in the living room, and that's where we realize that we're talking to something super intelligent in that house, and it was very, like we said, it was very negative. So that's where we kind of decide on the second night that we're going to go up to the attic area, which is where the negative spirit supposedly lives, and we decided to do another Estes method, and we had a lot of really crazy stuff happen from that.
Yeah. I mean, the Estes method was really good. It was very intelligent, but it's just not on YouTube just for the sole fact of what he said. It's just dry.
Right.
But
One
day, if it got big enough and people ever wanted to see it, we could always. I still have all the footage.
Right. If seeing those is something that you guys really want to see, and you kind of want to see some of that footage that we're talking about, like he said, we still have it saved on a computer, so we could always release those type of things. But so we're doing the Estes method up in the attic, and just to kind of summarize some of the things that happened during this Estes method, because if I was to sit here and tell you everything that happened, we'd be sitting here for a long while talking about it. But some of the more prominent things that happened was we were under the impression that we was talking to something possibly demonic, so we kind of decided that we were kind of poke the bear a little bit to see if we could get anything to substantially tell us for certain that it was something demonic. So one of our guest investigators, James, actually had the idea of reading St. Michael's Prayer up in the attic. So that's what we decided to do. He actually read it both in Latin, and then he did it in English as well. So he reads St. Michael's Prayer, and I'll tell you, like, you could actually feel the energy shift in the room when he finished that prayer, because it kind of went from not super crazy, but then all of a sudden it just turned super, super dark. And it kind of, there for a while, it kind of pointed itself more at me, and I think it was only for the reason that I was asking the questions and Gage was under the headset during this time. And so since I was the one asking the questions, I think that's where he was really trying to poke at me and kind of get me to react to what it was saying. So it did a lot of things, like call me out, called me names. It kept daring me to go down to the basement. But the big one that was really interesting and almost honestly just kind of scary, in the sense that we had never really been in contact with a spirit of this level before. At one point, I remember you say under the headset, "Stop." So I ask, what is it that you want me to stop? And you say provoking. So I'm like, okay. And I'm just kind of like, what are you going to do if I don't stop provoking? And at that point, he actually takes off the headset and he's just kind of like, I'm not going to say what I think I just heard. And I remember I was kind of like, nah, like, whatever it said, you got to say it, because I feel like from what I asked, it's probably gonna directly correlate. And it said, girlfriend will die. That's what it literally said, was girlfriend will die. But I didn't honestly know who exactly it was talking to. I didn't know if it was talking about me and my wife, because at this point I had just gotten married a couple months before that. Gage had actually just gotten married a couple months before this, and then John was the third person that it mentioned by name, and he had a girlfriend. He had a girlfriend at that time as well. So I wasn't 100% sure who it was talking about, but nonetheless, it was a scary experience, because that was the first time we had ever had something personal actually directly try to intimidate us and threaten us in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the main stuff.
It was the main stuff, and then
Not really much. I mean, a lot more stuff happened, but like nothing like more. You got real sick.
I didn't get sick, and this was actually around the same time.
It was. I think it was right after it said it would make you. It said you're gonna get sick.
Yeah,
You got real sick.
I was gonna get sick, and I got real sick. So a lot of direct kind of attacks.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to see the whole thing, just let us know. We'll get it on.
We'll definitely do that. And then there's a few pieces of evidence that we have that we did admit, but they're either some of the better voices that I think we caught. My dad joined us for the second night, and he had a couple of like security cameras is almost what I want to call them. He had a couple of security cameras that he was kind of messing with, and they caught a couple things. One was a really good voice where it kind of says "Help me," and the next was we was in the basement, and you kind of I wouldn't call it necessarily a shadow, but the camera did kind of catch up some sort of visual anomaly that's like there, and then all of a sudden you do kind of see it move from the camera. I'm not 100% sure what to think about it, but what we're going to do on those is we're going to go ahead and release those on TikTok, and so you guys will be able to go to TikTok and check out those pieces of evidence and kind of let us know in the comment section what you think about those specifically. But yeah, like we said, if you guys are at all interested in seeing some of the crazy stuff that happened during the Estes methods, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to put those videos out there so you can kind of watch them. But obviously, because they're basically like another hour or so of just the Estes method, they can be kind of dry. Definitely excited to go back there, just because of all the personal stuff that we experienced there, and the big thing that happened from that house, and we'll kind of get more into this in future videos because it doesn't really get more prominent until later. This was just kind of the start of this long process. But one of the main male spirits in that house, who we said was Ed, actually basically created an attachment to Gage for a while, and we didn't really see it pop up until a couple investigations later, which I highly suggest you guys stick around to see how that kind of transpires and where that goes from here. But this was kind of like the big thing that took away from this investigation specifically.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I must say that is definitely about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of talking to us a little bit about the Bellaire House and what was kind of going on with some of the stuff there. Again, we're super appreciative to all of you that stop in every week, check out our videos, and kind of get to see our growth. We definitely had a lot of things that we learned from this investigation from our first investigation at Moundsville Penitentiary. But again, we made a lot of mistakes, and that's where we're kind of sitting here now and looking back at it, and we kind of realize what we did wrong and how we can kind of improve that. But it's, again, just one big learning process, and we are so happy that you guys get to be with us on this journey. Again, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification to let you guys know whenever we do upload new videos, and can't wait to see where we go from here. Stay ghostly.